Hello, welcome back to 6.4, solving percentages using proportions. We are on page 8 in your notes. If you lost track, that's where we're going. We just learned how to use this thing I sometimes call the magical proportion. There's really nothing magical about it. It's just so easy, it feels like magic at times. Let's just pick up where we left off. I'm going to assume you've watched the previous videos. Number 3 says 10 is what percent of 20, so if we just continued, it's 10 is, so the 10 is going to go right there in the is spot, 10, over, it says, what percent? Okay, well here's what that tells me. It tells me that the number over 100 is unknown, and of 20, that means the total, the whole part, is 20, and now we're just going to crisscross, do our simple math, and we'll have 20x is equal to 1,000. And we will divide that 20, and we have x is equal to 50. Please, please, please pay attention to how I am lining up my equal sign. I'm trying to picture the proportion. The equation is two sides, and I manipulate one, I do the same thing to the other. It's so important for us to be able to do that. And just for fun, let's change pen colors. How about red for number 3? I'll do that over here. Okay, give me a little bit more space. Hopefully you have enough room in your paper to work this problem out. 3 is 10% of what? Well, real similar to the other question. The 3 is right up there in the is spot, so I have 3 over something, and then it says 10%, so that's 10 out of 100, and so it looks like the x is right here. The of what is the x, so let's crisscross and work this out. 10x, 3 times 100 means it equals 300. And if we divide it by 10, x equals, that divides up to 10, 30. And there you go. That's how that one works out for you. Yeah, and that wraps up the first slide on page 8. And if we go to the next slide now, doing the same things really. Here, we'll work through these real quick. It says 120% of 42. Okay, let's just keep rolling here. All right, well, here's what they tell me. They tell me that the number over 100 is 120. And it says of 42, so the of 42 goes right there. Is what? X goes right there. Now, if I crisscross and multiply that out, 100x is equal to 42 times 120, I believe. You double check me, but I believe that's 5,040. And now if we divide it out, 5,040 divided by 100, that moves the decimal 2 places, making it 50.4. Right? And then the last one, number 6, I'll change back to my white. Again, make sure you're hitting pause if you need to, and if not, just keep flowing with the video as you need it. Okay, and this one right here, I noticed that it says is 10.5. I kind of went out of order there, so I'll go back if I confused you at all. It does say what percent, so that phrase tells me that it's what percent, so the number over 100 is the unknown. It says of 84. Remember, the of is down here on the bottom. 84, sloppy 8 is right there. So, and then it said is 10.5, and the is right there on top. So I'm just going to crisscross and multiply. 84x is equal to 10.5 times 100. Left off my x there, sorry. 1,050. And just divide both sides now by 84. Because remember, you want to turn that number right there into a 1. Because you want 1x. Okay, 84 is 1. So you got 1x is equal to. Now make sure you do it to the other side as well. And you can double check my math there, but I believe when you divide 1050 divided by 84, 12.5. Double check me that as well. So that's some examples of how to solve the proportion if you can get it written as a proportion. Well, here's where we want to make the transition now. I showed you 2 methods to solve those kind of problems where you have something is what percent of something. You can either write the equation out and then solve the unknown. Or you can get that proportion and then crisscross and solve the unknown. So, this is what I showed you originally. Is over of is percent over 100. And that translates into the is basically the part. Okay, so this proportion, all right, I'm now going to translate it down here for you for applications, for how you can solve it in the real world. That is represents a part of something, and the of is the whole. It's the entire group. And then the percent is just the amount out of 100. Okay, well, that may sound a little more confusing than it is, but keep that in mind and allow me to go to the next slide and show you what it is we mean. Here's an example of a problem. This says that George W. Bush was inaugurated as the 43rd President of the United States in 2001. Since Grover Cleveland has both the 22nd and the 24th presidents, 22nd and 24th, there have been only 42 presidents. Of the 42 presidents, 8 have died in office. What percent have died in office? Okay, so let's think about what this has here. First of all, the question is saying, well, find the percent of presidents that have died in office. Well, we know that the part is 8 because there's only 8 out of 42. The whole group of presidents, the total number of presidents is 42. So there you see the part and the whole. You're comparing the number of presidents that have died to the entire group. Part is the of is the whole 42. There. So the unknown in this problem is the percent. That's what you'll have found when you're done. So if we wrote that into a proportion, we would have this proportion right here. And then we would crisscross and solve it. You'd have 800 is equal to 42x. You would divide that by 42. For the sake of space, I don't have that all written out here, but you should be in the habit of hopefully working those out the same method. And you would end up with x is 19%. It might have been 0.19 depending on how you figured it, but since it's asking for the percent, you want to turn that into percent form there when you're finished. Okay? So that's a nice application of the is over of, how that represents part over whole for you. And then let's look at kind of a follow-up question to that. There are 4 presidents that have been assassinated in office, and they are listed there. And if you're not sure where we are on page 10 now. We just turned to it. Yeah, those 4 presidents, what percent have been assassinated in office? Okay, 4 of them have been. So the part in this particular case is 4. The whole is still 42 because there's still 42 presidents. At least at the time when this question was written, we're going to just stick with that. So to set up that proportion, there's your part over whole right there. Part over whole right there, which is like the is over of. Crisscross and solve that problem, and you'd come up with 9.5%. You may have had 0.095, but that's what it is as a percent right there. Okay, I think I'd like to roll through the last couple questions here, and then we will wrap it up at that point. You'll see this graph on page 10 in your notes. That's what we'll be referring to as we solve the next 2 slides. Okay, on the next slide, what we have here, it says, it's referring to that circle graph we just passed. It says in the 15 largest cities of the United States there are approximately 130 million workers 16 years and over. Approximately 76.3% drive to work alone. How many workers in these 15 cities drive to work alone? So that information came out of that graph, and that's what we're trying to find when we're done. So there you have the information. The part is X, the whole is 130 million. The percentage is 76.3. So if we plug that into that percentage, you have this. And then if you crisscross and solve it, okay, you'll have 100x equals a very large number right there. Looks like it slightly got chopped off my page, but it's 99,190,000 workers. Sorry about the slicing there at the bottom, but that's what it would get if you worked it out on your calculator. And then very quickly, if I could do the last question, it says, How many workers in these 15 cities carpool to work alone? Well, you'll have to might have to flip back to your graph, but you'll see that 11.2 percent. I think I said that wrong. They carpool to work in this question. 11.2% carpool to work. So if you take that value and set it up, you just put the 11.2% over 100, like that. Crisscross and solve it, and you should come out with that number right there, about 14.5 million people carpool to work. So that should wrap up for 6.5, and we will get it going again here with percent of change soon. Thanks.